The Association of American Medical Colleges is pleased to welcome you to our series, Building the Future of GME Recruitment with Eris and Thalamus, Technology, Data, and Impact. Today's webinar is on designing a holistic review process using Cortex and Thalamus Core. We are recording and we'll make the archive available after. We'll email you once we post it. We did mute all participant audio. If you need help, send us a message. The presentation includes time for Q&A. You may submit a question at any time by clicking the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. It's now my pleasure to welcome Laura Fletcher. Laura.
Great, thanks so much, Jennifer. Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Fletcher, a selection scientist within the Admissions and Selection Research and Development team here at the AAMC, and I'll be talking to you about how to design and implement a holistic, evidence-based selection system in the Thalamus platform. The goal of this webinar is to provide you tips and best practices for selection, including steps you can take to optimize your use of Thalamus for your selection process. We hope you'll walk away with a few ideas or opportunities to refine or revamp your selection process or better utilize the Thalamus platform. Some of what we present may be useful to you in the short term, and some may be more long-term goals. By the end of this webinar, we hope you'll be able to do a few things: define holistic review and evidence-based selection, be able to identify critical competencies and characteristics for resident, program, and institution success, and identify opportunities to leverage the Thalamus platform for evidence-based selection. We will have some opportunities for participation throughout, like polling and some activities. Let's start with a brief overview of holistic review and the key principles and steps involved to create an evidence-based selection system. The AAMC Holistic Review Framework provides a flexible scaffolding upon which you can build a strategically sound resident selection process. Let's start with the definition. The AAMC defines holistic review as a flexible, mission-aligned approach to recruit and assess an individual's job-related competencies by considering their experiences, attributes, and academic metrics to select those applicants who are likely to succeed as a resident at your program and contribute to the program's unique goals, learning environment, and the practice of medicine. Importantly, the success of holistic review depends on thoughtful identification of critical competencies tied to resident success and use of various types of data to gain a clear picture of those competencies. Let's talk about how to most effectively and efficiently implement holistic review. The way we think about and design a selection system and what we're trying to learn, how we're trying to learn it, and who will help us learn it all contributes to a program's success. Here are 3 guidelines for designing an evidence-based selection system. First, we need to start by considering the job and the program mission and what it takes to be successful. This is a critical step to finding applicants best suited for your program. Second, once that's in place, there are many data points in the selection process: the application, transcripts, letters of recommendation, that all provide information on important knowledge, competencies, motivations, and interests. All of these have strengths and weaknesses and contribute pieces to the puzzle. We'll want to use multiple pieces together, like drawing multiple samples, to see the clearest picture of an applicant's competencies and suitability for a program. This also helps ensure the process is both reliable and accurate. Finally, to make sure we're reviewing and evaluating this information fairly, or giving all applicants a chance to succeed, we need to create a standardized process. This means measuring the same competencies and characteristics of all applicants, using objective scoring criteria, and training evaluators to implement a consistent process. Consistency in the process helps ensure equitable evaluation of applicants. These guidelines translate into 3 simple steps that allow you to make thoughtful, intentional decisions and design an effective and efficient selection process. First, and top priority, is identifying what competencies residents need when they enter training. This is critical to finding well-suited applicants in your applicant pool. It also plays a key role in Thalamus holistic review. Second is determining how to assess these competencies in your applicants during the selection process. What information will you use and how will you evaluate that information? This also plays a key role in Thalamus holistic review, as you can create scorecards that focus on a particular competency or competencies, direct application reviewers or interviewers to particular information to evaluate the competencies, and provide a rubric or rating scale to capture their evaluation. Third is scoring applicants. In Thalamus holistic review, you can combine and weight scorecards to identify applicants best suited for your program. During today's webinar, we'll focus on the best practices and steps for identifying those critical competencies and characteristics. Then we'll preview Thalamus holistic review so that you can see how each of these key steps are implemented in the Thalamus platform. Let's get started talking about how to identify mission-aligned characteristics and job-related competencies. First, let's make sure we have the same understanding of what it means for something to be mission-aligned. Mission-aligned refers to characteristics of a resident that will help an institution or program achieve its mission and goals, contribute to its culture and environment, serve the surrounding community, and address the needs of the local physician workforce. So how do we identify these characteristics? Here are some key questions to ask yourself to help reach for some of those answers. And these are some examples of some characteristics that may come to mind. Things like research, innovation, leadership, commitment to service, interest in diverse patient populations, or interest in healthcare disparities. So let's put this into practice and go through an example. Here is a sample program mission statement. We are an active and motivated department focused on academic and clinical excellence. It is our mission to foster the development of collaborative teams to support providing high-quality patient care, educating tomorrow's leaders, and advancing research. Based on this information, a few mission-aligned characteristics might be teamwork and collaboration, because they mention the importance of collaborative teams and educating leaders, and also an interest in research, because they identify as an academic department as well as advancing research. Let's take a look at another program. This program's mission is to provide excellent patient care by fostering an atmosphere of compassion, growth, and trust. We serve a diverse patient population and offer a broad spectrum of clinical experiences to train our residents on how to meet the challenges of modern healthcare, excel in a variety of healthcare settings, and be leaders in their communities. So some of their mission-aligned characteristics might be empathy and compassion, because they're focusing on compassion and that relationship with their patients. A commitment to learning and growth, because they want to train residents on how to grow as physicians, but also meet those modern healthcare challenges. And dedicated to community service, because in the end, they want them to be leaders of communities and address healthcare issues in their local communities. So now, I'd like you to take a minute or two to think about your program and institution. Using a similar process, please use the QR code or link that will be provided to you in the chat to identify two of your mission-aligned characteristics and think about what part of your program's mission or goals might have helped you identify each one. After a minute or two, we'll take a look to see what people wrote in. All right, we still have some responses coming in, so I'll give you another 10 or 15 seconds or so. All right. So let's take a look to see what people have been saying. Excellent patient care, service to the community, a lot of commitment to the community's research, rural practice, leadership, professionalism, a lot of content focusing on commitment to patients, patient care, empathy, great, growth mindset, reliable community engagement. These are all really great examples of some of the mission aligned characteristics that can come up. And you notice that there are some very consistent, are some very similar, focusing on commitment to patients and service, others focused on things like research. So it can really vary based on what it is that's important for your program's mission and institution. And just like you'll carefully consider your program's mission to identify characteristics, you'll also need to carefully consider the job of a resident to identify competencies for resident success. And competencies are probably not a new concept for you. Competency-based medical education has been in the discussion for a while now, and you all use ACGME milestones, which capture ACGME core competencies. So when I say competency, I'm referring to a collection of knowledge, skills, abilities, and other characteristics that are needed for successful performance of the job. Here are a few examples of competencies. They are neither big and broad, nor as specific as a particular task on the job. Each of these competencies shares some important characteristics. Each is named intuitively, so from the name alone, we can get a sense of what it is we're referring to. And each is defined using observable behavior and behaviors that tie back to work activities or job expectations. They also incorporate language that is specific to the program or institution. There are many different ways that you might go about identifying what competencies are most important for your resident success. It's not a typical activity to piece apart what someone does in their job and what competencies are needed to do that job. I'm also going to share a few examples of different approaches you can take to narrow in on those critical competencies. The first approach is considering what residents do. What are their responsibilities or assigned tasks? Who do they interact with? Are they people within your specialty or other specialties? Are they other members of a healthcare team? And what is the nature of those interactions? How much autonomy or supervision do they have? And what do you expect them to perform on their own? What should they be able to do independently without error? And what should be supervised and why? For example, in a surgical specialty or perhaps more procedural specialty, a resident might need technical knowledge, technical skills, maybe things like dexterity, attention to detail, and maybe stress tolerance as well. They're performing procedures in a high-risk environment at times. In pediatrics, if we consider a wellness checkup, they might also need a breadth of technical knowledge and communication and interpersonal skills to engage with the child, patient, and parent. In addition, make sure you consider what a resident will do in their first year versus second year and beyond, as that degree of autonomy may be different, and you may or may not be developing certain competencies in the first year. You might also consider the work context or circumstances. It's not only important to consider what a resident does, but the context in which they're working. So what makes the job challenging? Are their hours long, or are they predictable or unpredictable? What is the pace of work like? Do they need to make decisions quickly, or do they have time? And who are the patient populations? How varied are the backgrounds and lifestyles of the patients? Another approach to thinking about competencies is reflecting on those bad selections, the folks that you had hoped would work out, but did not. We've all lived the consequences of a bad hire. Program directors are not alone when they say it's 10% of the residents that take up 80% of the time. Bad selections create more work rather than help to complete work. They add time and stress to you and others in your program and can damage morale. But we can learn from those poor performers and use that to create or improve our selection process. Considering what those bad hires or struggling residents are missing, or what those star residents have that others don't across that full range of possible competencies, can help you identify critical competencies. So when residents have struggled, what was this person doing? What were they unable to do that others were? Why did they need more supervision? What kinds of errors were they making? And what were you trying to remediate? You can also consider the other end of the continuum, those residents who are really successful. They're excelling, thriving, and with limited attention from you. What are they doing? What are they accomplishing? What are they getting done and how? You are likely to identify a wide range of competencies that are needed, and we'd expect you to identify a range of competencies that come together to provide patient care and be a successful resident. Some of those are more technical, like technical knowledge and skills, and some are more professional-oriented behaviors. Given the time, resources, and information available in the selection process, you'll likely need to prioritize what you'll assess. So here are some questions to help you prioritize. What are the competencies needed when a resident enters the program? In other words, do residents need this on day one? Is this something they can or will develop once at your program? Is this something your program will train them on? And what minimum level of ability is required to be successful? One way to help identify critical competencies is to use this kind of sentence framework. A resident needs some sort of competency because they need to do some sort of task, have some sort of skill, have some kind of responsibility, or because of a particular work context. So let's walk through an example. A resident needs resilience because the work context includes long hours, unpredictable shifts, etc. Okay, now you try it. So reflect on your responsibilities, work context, or other things for your residents at your program. Use the QR code or link provided and identify 2 competencies critical to resident success at your program, and some reasons why you consider each one to be important. I'll give people a couple of minutes to complete, and then we'll review what people wrote in. Okay. I'll give people a couple more seconds, and then we can take a look at the results. Perfect. Just throw this over. So here we can see, and please keep submitting because we definitely want to hear what everyone has to say. So as we're looking through this, we can see teamwork because requires members to work together to provide patient care, professionalism, they need to know what the right thing is and do it, cultural competence, lots of professionalism and communication, flexibility because they're pulled in numerous directions, professionalism, interacting with colleagues and staff, that's great. Interacting with others is a huge part. Empathy to develop that rapport and alliance with patients, great. And then second one, research, more professionalism, time management, study skills is a great idea. Research aptitude because they need to perform research and interpret new studies, organization skills for prioritization. So we can see there's some definite trends and similarity, but also a wide range of differences that programs are valuing and expecting in their residents. And as always, please feel free to go through and to continue to submit because we definitely are curious to hear what kinds of competencies you are focused on for your program. So now let's go through a couple example use cases to see how programs may identify competencies and characteristics by considering sort of the whole picture. So thinking back to their mission and also thinking of elements of the work context and resident success. We'll show you two sample programs, including their program mission and other job-related context information. And then we'll ask you to use the poll that we provide to select the three competencies that you think best reflect what are critical competencies to that program. And be sure to think about why that competency might be critical to that program based on the information provided. Our first program is a primary care program located in an urban center. Their mission centers around training physicians to provide compassionate care to diverse patient populations, adaptability to various work settings, and a commitment to continuous self-reflection and professional growth. They serve a wide range of patients and have typical primary care responsibilities. The most successful residents advocate for their patients, support medical students, and participate in projects that support the health of their community. So please use the poll that's going to be dropped in the chat and select what you think are the top three competencies for this program based on the information provided on this slide. And the list of competencies here that you'll see in the poll are the key characteristics that are included in the experiences section of the ARIS application. All right. For time's sake, I think I'm going to move us forward and just talk a little bit about some of the examples that we came to mind. Looks like the poll might be having some issues. I apologize about that. So here are some examples that come to mind. Again, they're not all inclusive. These are some. The need for teamwork and collaboration because they work as part of a team with a wide range of care providers. They need empathy and compassion because they work with at-risk vulnerable populations with limited access to healthcare. The need for interpersonal skills, because they need to develop relationships with patients to provide that good long-term care. And the need for community service or an interest in eliminating healthcare disparities, because they should be motivated to address the community healthcare needs. Our second example is a surgical program located in Silicon Valley, which is a suburban area. Their mission centers around training physicians who advocate for their patients, are innovative, critical thinkers who want to work with and adapt to new technologies and the evolving healthcare landscape. They also have a wide range of patients, although some face complex surgical needs. Their work involves interacting with the patient throughout their diagnosis and recovery process, as well as participating in quality improvement initiatives and/or research. The most successful residents take responsibility for their work and have good time management skills, help facilitate teamwork and collaboration, and enjoy learning new technologies as well as mentoring others. So think back to some of those other competencies that we've talked about. Think about maybe 2 or 3 that you can identify, and then I will go just think in your minds, and I'll go through some examples that we came up with, and we can see how much they aligned. So here we can see that leadership and teamwork are really important, because successful residents need to be comfortable working as part of a team and create that strong, comfortable work environment for the care team. They need reliability and dependability, because they must take ownership of their work and time management of their tasks. They need resilience and adaptability, because they work in a high-pressure, fast-paced clinical environment with a high patient volume. But they also need curiosity, because they need to want to explore and learn about some of those emerging technologies. So you can let us know if there are any that you pointed out or you thought of that we didn't include here in the examples, or you can let us know if any of these also sort of ring true to you as well. So this covers the end of the foundational knowledge portion of today's webinar. So I'd like to pass it over to my colleague Shannon to provide an overview of how the Thalamus platform can support the evidence-based selection process.
Well, I'm obviously not Shannon, but I'm going to
Oh,
jump.
I'm so sorry, Jason.
Quick plug. No, it's absolutely fine. But Shannon's here as well. But we wanted to jump in with a quick plug for Cortex and set some context, and then pass it over to Shannon. So a big thank you to Laura for the first half of this webinar. And we really appreciate the opportunity to be here. And so before we jump into the Thalamus Holistic Review side, I just wanted to set some context related to what we talked about in the first part of this webinar, which was a webinar series, which was focusing on kind of what was new to the AAMC and Thalamus collaboration this year. And so as you all think to work towards your competency-based approach and what you want to achieve in your holistic review, that's going to go into what we call Thalamus Holistic Review, which is our competency-based scoring system. And that includes use in both Cortex as well as Thalamus Core. It spans the entirety of the Thalamus platform and allows you to do everything from application screening and review through your interview management and evaluation, all the way through creation of your rank list in Thalamus Core if you use that as well. And so this component of Thalamus, what we call Thalamus Holistic Review, this competency-based scoring system, is included in the ARIS and Thalamus collaboration. And it is included for all ARIS participating residency and fellowship programs. And in addition, Cortex obviously is available complimentary to all programs through this collaboration as well as Thalamus Core. So this is all going to interact together as one single unified platform for your programs going through this process. Again, just a quick plug from last time. This is what the new Cortex is going to look like, which is going to roll out over the next little over the next week or two, and we're putting final touches in and going to roll it out to the broader community. This new UI and UX of Cortex, which is Thalamus's tech-assisted holistic application review and screening platform. And so What Shannon's going to show you is configurable through Cortex. It's configurable through Core. You can use it for application screening and review. You can use it for interview management. You can build different competencies and different scorecards in what we call here Thalamus Holistic Review. If you access it through Core, it's going to look very similar. Cortex is undergoing a UI and UX refresh, as we discussed. Core will be doing so as well. But essentially, this is the framework that we use to build those competencies. Is you can assign and build as many competencies as you want, and Shannon will walk you through this. Build questions within each competency, which eventually gets assigned to scorecards and then goes through application, interview, and overall score. And you can roll these up in different weights and such as well, and achieve whatever you're looking to achieve with regards to competency-based scoring to promote holistic review of your applicants. In Cortex itself, you're also going to be able to assign applicant-faculty pairings. You're going to then be able to have your faculty go in and score and complete these evaluations here on the side panel in the more detailed view as well, and accomplish whatever you're looking to accomplish in terms of your overall scoring. From there, you can make evaluations and see which of your faculty complete which evaluations for the applicants that they've been assigned to and or who is still needing to be scored. And eventually they're going to make selections and recommendations. And then the program director, coordinator, administrator, who's ever overseeing the selection process in the application screening part of the overall review can select and make a final decision, which will then allow you to send those applicants that you've decided to interview over to Thalamus. And so a lot more to follow on this end. Just wanted to go in with that plug, and I'll see everybody in the third part of this webinar 2 weeks from now to talk more about data as part of the collaboration. And I'm going to pass it over to Shannon, one of our amazing program success managers, to tell you a bit more about Thalamus Holistic Review.
Thank you so much, Jason. Yes, so I am going to go over just quickly some really high-level slides about the Thalamus Holistic Review competency-based scoring platform that Jason mentioned that is across our two main platforms. So your application review in Cortex, again, application review means application selection. Who am I going to invite? And then Thalamus Core, which is going to allow you to build those evaluations for that interview process. And so as a result, you are going to be able to create different competencies and different questions. Those competencies, like Laura just did an amazing job explaining, you will be able to create those competencies in your Thalamus Holistic Review platform and then build questions that you will then be having your application reviewers and or your program interviewers using to complete and submit those scores and those evaluations. The process is going to allow you to build different types of questions. And I say different types of questions. You're going to have the ability to create those evaluation responses or those rating scales that could be tied to levels, such as those milestones that Laura mentioned for you. So giving you the customization to build out the appropriate rating scale. You have several options. You can include comment boxes for the reviewers, and even the ability to have specific questions marked as unable to access or assess. Then once you've built those competencies and those questions, you have complete customization over which scorecards or which evaluation forms do you want to be visible in Cortex and assigned to the reviewers that are screening applications, or which scorecards or evaluations do you want to be accessible to the program interviewer within Thalamus Core. The platform is going to allow the administrative users to have complete customization over those competencies, those questions, those scorecards, down to where is the question laying on the scorecard. You'll also be able to apply weights or choose how you want those scores to be tallied on the individual scorecards. Then you'll also have the option to have reviewer weighting. Weights in general is something that this team is going to be covering during our webinar series of when is it an appropriate use of weighting, but this is an optional step. It's provided through both platforms, so you do have that tool to assist in those decision-making evaluations. And then last but not least here, the step 4 in your Thalamus Holistic Review is going to allow you to aggregate those scores for your Cortex application score or your core interview score, and finally your overall score. Like Jason mentioned, that overall score is going to be what drives your rank list, and you have complete customization. Do you want the application score to be part of the overall score? Do you want just one interview score type to be driving your overall score? And here in this screen is where you can also make the decision if you'd like your overall scores to be based on competencies versus individual scorecards. So as you can see, all of the things that we've spent some time talking about earlier today, you are going to be able to utilize the Thalamus Holistic Review as a tool to meet all of those things, to build those competencies, to build those descriptions for your competencies, going all the way through to making the decision of what is going to drive your rank list. And then here is an example of when your reviewers, whether it be for the application decision part in Cortex or within Thalamus Core, here in Cortex, and as Jason alluded to in his little sneak peek, our UI design is changing just a little bit, so yours will look slightly different. But the reviewer within Cortex will be able to access the scorecards directly and see the rating scales that they've been selected to fill out, as well as have some instructions. The program administrators are going to be able to view those scores once they are submitted, and they'll also be able to access all of the ARIS application documents at the very same time so that they can really make those thoughtful decisions on those evaluations that you've created for application review. Within that Cortex application review, Jason shared a little bit. This is just an older version of where you'll be able to make those assignments to your application reviewers. And then here is where, once they're in the interview process, your reviewers will be able to access the evaluations or the scorecards and complete those scorecards directly from their schedule page and even from within the virtual interview once they're inside of the Thalamus video chat. So the platform is designed for you to be able to identify those competencies, create the questions, and use thoughtful rating scales to be able to identify those successful traits of those applicants, and then easily have them accessible to your application reviewing team as well as your interviewing team so that they can spend time really focusing on that content and making those thoughtful decisions and have everything at their fingertips. And then last but not least, again, I think I said that earlier, but that overall score is going to then build that rank list for you directly within Thalamus Core and allow you complete customization of your rank list. You can manage it any which way you want. It will provide you everything that you need in order to manage that rank meeting completely paperlessly. And then Jason, I think maybe do you want me to turn it back over to you for this slide to talk about?
Sure, and happy to, and thanks, Shannon. Again, we're really excited about this entire learning series. This is the second installment and the first installment of really the holistic review part of this webinar series. There will be a second demo and workshop much like this on July 16th, and then a third on July 23rd. Our next session in this learning series will be a innovation conversation on July 9th about the data advantage and how ARIS and Thalamus data is turning insights into action, which will be all about data within and across the collaboration and the data that we're bringing to the community overall. So very much looking forward to that, in addition to the second and third installments of this particular holistic review and scorecards, and combining weighting and scorecards in Thalamus and Cortex, and really across the entire collaboration as well. So hope you can join us for those also and sign up for those. And we will pass it back over to our AAMC colleagues before jumping into Q&A for a moment as well.
Thanks, Jason. Before we jump into the Q&A, thank you to the audience for your patience with those exercises. We want to make sure you get full value out of this presentation and training. And so I'll go ahead and actually, before jumping into the first question, turn it back to Laura to see if we can kind of facilitate that for those first two use case scenarios.
Great. Thanks so much, Richard. Yeah, so just to make sure that, as he said, everyone has a chance to participate in some of these activities and to sort of see the full list of key characteristics or competencies that are in the ARIS application currently, we wanted to go back to the use cases just for a few minutes. Again, so you can fill out the poll and let us know what key competencies you identify from both cases. We'll start with the primary care case. And so just identifying your top three based on what it is that you see on the description here. So focusing on advocating for their patients, mentoring medical students, the idea of compassionate care, developing compassionate physician. Oh, and we'll be sure to put the link back in the chat. Yeah, we see it. All right. Things seem to be moving properly now. So we're getting some responses. That's great. Okay, I'm going to share the results just so feel free to keep on submitting as we go through it, but just to make sure that we can sort of see how there's some variation. So we see cultural humility and awareness is up there. We have empathy and compassion. We also have the communication and interpersonal skills, but there's definitely a variation in what aspects different people are pulling out from the same prompt, which is really important because part of it is, you know, the information can be interpreted differently, and based on what your personal focus is, it's certain pieces of information might be weighted more heavily than others. So this is a great way to identify how the same kind of information may be interpreted slightly differently depending on the lens through which you perceive it. Okay, that's awesome. I'm so glad the polls, we were able to go back to them. All right. So let's now go to that second case, the surgical program. This program centered in an urban area who is focused on compassionate patient care, but also looking for innovative critical thinkers who want to work with and adapt to new technologies and that evolving healthcare landscape. So take a minute now to go through the second poll, if that can be dropped in the chat. And then again, think about what you identify as the top three competencies based on the information provided here. Yes, we are seeing movements again. Okay, so it was successful for both polls. Excellent. We'll give people a little bit more time and then I'll start sharing what we're seeing. Right. It's over. So here we're seeing things like critical thinking and problem solving. We do have empathy and compassion up there, but resilience and adaptability, teamwork and leadership, ingenuity and innovation. I do know that there was another category in the poll. So if that ends up, someone wants to write If they had an other idea, or if there are other competencies that are coming to your mind now, feel free to write that into the chat. We'd be curious to hear what it is that you what you might be seeing. Yeah, and so here you can definitely see that there are some that are standing out to others, but still there's that important variation based on what people are focused on based on their own experience. All right. I think we're ready to hand it back over to you, Richard, for the Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura. And for those of you who are actively participating in these use case scenarios, hopefully that was helpful in terms of utilizing the skills that are being shared today. For the Q&A today, as you are already entering in questions, feel free to keep them coming. I'll start with just a couple registration questions and then move on to live questions for today. So this one came in is a little bit more directed towards those of you who are beginners, those of you who are just starting the season and learning more about what Thalamus is. And I think there was a similar question in the live Q&A right now. I'll direct this one to you, Jason and Shannon. Of course, this webinar series is the place to start in terms of learning about the holistic review, learning about the collaboration, learning, jumping into the technical details. And I know you kind of already responded to this via text. Is there something that you can verbally share in terms of other resources that may be helpful in terms of learning the technical pieces, whether it has to do with access, whether it has to do with the nuts and bolts of things? And then I'll have a follow-up for
Yeah.
Laura after that.
I'll show off one visual here to start, and we can build from there. But again, this is our main collaboration page, which is accessible by going to thalamusgme.com/eris-collaboration or clicking on the resources button in the menu bar at the top of thalamusgme.com, and it will bring you to this page that shares all the key information about the AMC and Thalamus collaboration, what's available, resources, etc., as well as links to trainings. I will turn it over to Shannon to answer that question more specifically with regards to the trainings, but also as part of this webinar series, the next 2 sessions also go through a lot of scoring and holistic review as well, specific to that, but we have many other options as well. So Shannon, I'll pass it over to you.
Absolutely, and you should be seeing our training page. Richard, can you confirm, are you guys seeing my sharing the right screen? Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, we have put a lot of work into making sure everybody is feeling really prepared for the season. And as Jason alluded, we are having some UI design changes come out with Cortex, but the basic functionality of the Cortex is exactly the same as what we have been training for several months now. Here on our training page, we have a variety of live webinars that are being offered from our team, specifically on focusing on those things that you need to know to prepare for the season. What do I need to do to set up my Cortex application platform so I'm ready to review applications? What do I need to do to set up my Thalamus Core so that when I'm ready to send invites, I am good to go? We are offering these live webinars currently. We also have recordings of all of these webinars. And I know several of you have asked questions about, kind of nitty gritty. How do I build a scorecard? We cover those in these preparing for the season webinars. We also have live sessions happening right now on managing your season. So once you've got everything set up, we're already starting to provide education for you about how to get your applicants invited. And then we'll have continuing live webinars for wrapping up your season. If you haven't been able to attend any of those live webinars, you can register for a quick free account for our online academy. Our online academy is also going to offer you the opportunity to take self-guided modules, such as building a scorecard in our preparing for the season courses. We also have all of our webinar recordings available here within the online academy. As if those two things weren't enough, we are continuing to offer weekly free open live office hours with a member of our program success team. We offer weekly office hours on Cortex setup, on Thalamus Holistic Review setup, as well as general questions. And also on this page, you'll be able to see some additional resources that we have, such as full recordings on maybe Thalamus for program interviewers or other things such as building your itineraries. We also offer program success managers for each and every institution. If you are unsure of who your program success manager is, we really recommend that you reach out to our customer care team. We'd be happy to put you in touch with that dedicated success manager so that we can ensure that your programs and your institutions are ready for when those applications get in your hand. And I will stop sharing with that unless there's anything you want to add, Jason.
No, we just have a lot of training resources. I encourage everyone to go through that page. There's a lot more that we built a lot of resources for a lot of different learning styles too. There's asynchronous and synchronous in our academy and all these other things as well, including that preparing for your season series that Shannon mentioned. That's brand new for this year. So a lot of different ways to learn with us. Please come. We love having and growing and learning with this community.
Awesome. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Jason. And just to reiterate, there was one particular question too in terms of the scorecard, and just want to reiterate what Jason mentioned earlier in terms of the July 16th webinar. Is that accurate? In terms of just more specific instructions, step-by-step demoing on that piece of it. Before I jump into the next question, still about scorecards, actually, I do want to give a chance for Laura to chime in here. Are there any sort of other resources or maybe even plugs that are peripherally related to just preparing for the season that you'd like to kind of share?
Absolutely, sure. I think not to continue to advocate for our the rest of this webinar series, but as Richard mentioned, our July 16th and 23rd webinars will delve into more detail. So in the July 16th webinar, we will be talking more about defining competencies and the types of rubrics to go along with that, talking a little bit more detail about that process and how it can be done in Thalamus. And since all of these webinars will be recorded, there'll be great resources to use and reference as we continue forward.
Awesome, thank you. And shameless plug here, the AAMC has a whole lineup of other resources that are available. You can dig through in terms of the holistic review framework that was introduced earlier, and just a number of other kind of resources and guidance around interviews and so on and so forth. So the follow-up question I have is, there were a few questions about the template or scoring card, and not necessarily going to details here. I know, and you mentioned that Cortex is at least being reworked in terms of design. If folks are interested in seeing that initial template of like the core competencies and examples of that, are users able to go in right now to take a look at those examples? And then to extend that, just a common question that we get on the road too is, are you able to customize those? Is that kind of part of what we're learning later on?
Yes, the
Absolutely.
answer is yes. Yeah, go ahead, Shannon.
No, I was going to say absolutely.
Yeah.
We are going to our current live trainings that we are offering in addition to these webinars that we're doing for like July 16th. If you are looking to see more detailed information before July 16th, all of the resources that we currently have available regarding Thalamus Holistic Review, setting up Cortex, are going to have the content is the same. It's just going to be the actual kind of like design piece of it that will be updated. So the content that's currently available to users now is the content that you will need to build your scorecards. Jason, you might be able to speak to this in regards to being able to print out a scorecard or have a scorecard template that they could, print out for reviewers. That's not something we currently offer, but I don't know if maybe you know if that'll be an opportunity in the future.
Yeah. So I saw that come through the chat. I'm passing that along to our product team, but essentially you can enter scores and notes on behalf of others. So coordinators, if they've traditionally entered scores for their faculty, you're able to do that. Printing out the scorecard right now is not something we offer because we're trying to get everyone onto and filling this out electronically to decrease the overall amount of work. But we understand that some faculty like pieces of paper and working that way, and that's kind of the ingrained way that it happens. And so we'll pass it off to our product team and see what we can do there. Similarly, we have received a question about existing scorecard resources, which we're putting some information in the chat there also. I would not wait for the fellowships that are starting in July to get started with your scoring and your scorecards. As Shannon mentioned, a lot of this is more just overall design, but the same content, the same functionality, the same scorecards. If you create them now when we roll out the newer version, you're not going to be missing things. It's just going to look a little bit different that next day, and it's not going to look markedly different so much so that if you practice now, you're going to forget. Additionally, as we roll out the new UI and the sandbox, it will also allow you to practice on all of this, and it will be practicing in this new user interface and new design as well. So that will be out likely next week or maybe a few days after, either before or after the July 4th holiday. We're working to get this out as soon as possible for the July fellowships, but you'll be able to practice, you'll be able to learn, you'll be able to see all of the resources. There are lots of resources available on the training page and otherwise, in addition to the 716 webinar. Just the 716 webinar was when we were able to schedule the demo, and understanding that the July fellowships will be underway starting then. So.
Yeah, and in regards to being able to customize your scorecards, absolutely. Our system had come preloaded with some samples for you for competencies, questions, and scorecards, but programs can create everything from scratch. And if you need help taking some time to review your current evaluation process and you'd like your program success manager to give you some guidance on that, just reach out to us and we're happy to help you learn how to customize those tools.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Shannon. There is one question about just the historical referencing point and jumping point for these average scores. So I think looking forward, but before going to that, I do have a question in terms of, we're talking about where to start, we're talking the resources. And I know the audience members, some of you are program coordinators, some of you are program directors going through this process. Is there any particular differences for those two different audience types that might be especially helpful for them preparing in the season? And I'll direct that to either of you, Jason or Shannon.
Go ahead, Shannon.
So I would definitely say in our preparing for the season courses, or even these courses here, it's really important, I think, for the program director and the program administrator to understand the administrative setup of things. Anywhere where you see trainings of ours, such as screening and scoring applications, that's really designed for anyone that would be performing those tasks. So those application reviewers would be helpful for them to be exposed to that content. The same with when you get to the managing your season and kind of navigating through the interview day. That's where we really cover what things will look like from the program interviewer experience. But again, on our training page, if you're looking for some additional resources, not only do we have recordings, but we actually have an online academia course that will teach you how to train your faculty and provide you resources to make sure that your faculty feel comfortable, such as setting up test sessions and that type of thing.
Awesome, thank you. I know we're down to the last 2 minutes here. Before we go to any sort of closing thoughts here, well, actually, I think that question was actually addressed via text already. So I'll just transition into closing questions here. I'll start with Laura, actually, if that's okay. In terms of setting up your program's mission-aligned characteristics, viewing the frameworks, and even identifying the competencies that are important to you as a program coordinator, program director, program. Are there any sort of general tips that you have, at least in preparation, to really implement these and really improve the process in terms of the application review process using these concepts?
No, that's a great question. Again, some of the tips and sort of questions that we covered in the webinar today, things to help you sort of direct you to different pieces of information, are really important just to reflect on those competencies and characteristics that are important to you in your program. So using those questions to help you reflect is a great resource. But you can also think about asking a few people to think about those questions also, and then you can combine sort of everyone's perspectives and see, do you have agreement on what people are feeling, like are the priorities? And you can have some discussions about it to see maybe that can help you, focus and identify some of those key competencies and characteristics that really stand out across like a wide range of people at your program.
Awesome. I love that. I think the fact that folks were able to respond to the surveys, these core competencies are things that you guys, audience members, you're already considering. And so just using this framework is, and reflecting on it, like you said, is going to be incredibly helpful. Last minute here, Jason and Shannon, any particular last words, any highlights and focuses that you think is especially important for the rest of this webinar series?
I think there's a lot of learning that we're trying to do with the community. This webinar series is just one element of that. There are user guides, there are knowledge bases, there are online academies and universities and many different ways to learn. We're trying to make all of these resources as available to the community as possible. That's also why we have many former program coordinators and administrators on our team, of which Shannon is one, who are not only experts in Thalamus, but also experts in GME. They are assigned across institutions as well. If you need access to your institution's what we call Program Success Manager or Strategic Account Manager, you can request that as well. And we can proactively help you with a number of these things as well, in addition to having you obviously learn Thalamus yourself. And so there's lots of different ways to learn. And if you ever need any help from us, click the help button in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, fill out a support form, and we will come and assist there as well. So really excited about the upcoming season and the upcoming process, and excited another webinar here is in the books and part of this series.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap things up, and I'll turn it back over to you, Jennifer, to close us out. And best of luck to you all, and we'll see you in the next webinar of this series.
Okay, thank you. And please do go ahead and share your feedback on this session by filling out the evaluation that will pop up on your screen. We did record this session and we'll email you once it's ready. On behalf of the AAMC, have a great day.